Hey there, Drowsy Historian here. Tonight you're not a warrior or a queen or even a half-respected peasant with a plot of land and all your teeth. No, tonight you're something far more disposable. You're a woman in medieval Europe. That's it. That's the diagnosis. You have a uterus and therefore you're a mystery, a danger, a sin waiting to happen. You bleed when you shouldn't, cry when you mustn't, and suffer in ways no one around you bothers to understand, because they've already decided it's your fault. Whatever happens next, know this. It won't be for your benefit. It will be for the church, for your husband, or for whatever man last read Galen and thought he understood what a cervix was. Before they strip you down and press warm goose fat where it has no business being, do me a small favour. Leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is there. If you'd like early access to more of these medieval nightmares, ad-free audio of the episodes, or just want to support the show, you'll find the Patreon link in the description. But for now, lie back, get comfortable, and try not to move. You're about to be treated. That's not a promise, it's a warning. Let's begin. You arrive in the world not as a child, but as a question, a burden, a liability. The midwife doesn't cheer when you're born, she sighs. A girl, more mouth to feed, more dowry to save for, more risk of shame, scandal, or worse, survival. Your mother doesn't cry, but she doesn't smile either. She knows what happens next. She knows that in this world, a daughter is not a blessing. She is a vessel, and she will suffer. Before you are old enough to form memories, your future has already been assigned. You will marry. You will bleed. You will bear children. You will likely die doing one of those things. This is not tragic. It is expected. Your value is measured by your womb, your obedience, and how little noise you make while fulfilling both. No one asks what you want. There is no word for it. There is no reason to ask. The church has taken an interest in your body, not to protect it, but to categorize it. You are Eve's descendant, which means you are naturally sinful, sexually suspect, and intellectually inferior. You are temptation in human form, the shape of your hips, the softness of your voice, the very fact that you menstruate. All of it is evidence that God made you defective. Your body is a cautionary tale, wrapped in skin. The men who interpret scripture and science, usually the same men, have opinions about you. They read Aristotle and Galen and decide that the uterus is simply an inside-out penis, that your womb is cold, wet and passive, and must be regulated by heat, ideally delivered by a man. They believe you are ruled by your humours, prone to hysteria, and naturally incapable of rational thought. The medical texts refer to you not as a patient, but as a problem. You are not taught how your body works. That information is dangerous, apparently. Better to keep you ignorant and pious, a blank page on which your husband, your priest, or your physician can scribble his theories. If you bleed irregularly, you are sick. If you bleed regularly, you are still unclean. If you don't bleed at all, you're barren. Every version of your biology comes with punishment. There is no correct way to inhabit your body. Education, if you receive any, stops short of anatomy. You learn to pray, to sew, to stay silent when your betters speak. You learn that modesty is survival, that curiosity is sin, and that suffering without complaint is holy. No one explains menstruation until it happens. Then they scold you for not knowing. They hand you rags and shame and whisper warnings about becoming too warm, too active, too full of thoughts. Your body does not belong to you. It is the property of your father until it is transferred to your husband. They will negotiate this like a livestock sale, part social status, part economic strategy, part theological gamble. The goal is to make sure your uterus ends up in the right hands. This is considered love, or fate, or God's will. Your consent is irrelevant. There are women around you, but they are not safe either. They are older versions of you, tired, wounded, silent. They know things they will not say aloud. They have buried sisters, daughters, children. They have lived through fevers and stillbirths, accusations and bloodletting. They do not speak of pain. They do not expect relief. They know what the word woman really means here: expendable. When male physicians speak about you, they do so in Latin, often incorrectly. They believe that pain makes you holy, that your suffering cleanses your soul. They also believe that your uterus can suffocate you if it is not properly satisfied. Some of them recommend sex as a cure. Some recommend chastity. Some just recommend prayer, and then send you home to die politely in private. Your womb is not just an organ, it is a political object. It can be blamed, sold, feared, and inspected. It cannot be understood, because that would require admitting that your pain is real. Instead, it is theorized about by men who have never seen one, and would faint if they did. You will live your entire life being treated by people who don't believe you, advised by people who think you are cursed, and examined by people who think God gave them the right. You are not a person. You are a function. You are a future mother or a failed one, a virgin or a whore, a wife or a warning. Your worth is measured in blood, in silence, in the number of children you produce, and how little you complain while doing it. If you die young, you will not be remembered. If you survive, no one will ask how. That would imply they care. This is your starting point. Not a cradle, but a diagnosis. Not a childhood, but a countdown. Whatever comes next, the fumigations, the exorcisms, the childbirths, the leeches, the whispered prayers, and blood-stained cloths, it will not be done for you. It will be done to you. You were born with a womb, and so you will be punished for it. It doesn't happen all at once. First, there is the ache in your joints. Not pain exactly, but pressure, like your bones are being reshaped while you sleep. Your chest begins to swell, and your hips widen. You try to hide it under loose wool, an awkward posture, but the village notices. The baker's wife squints at your waistline and stops calling you little one. The local boys stop throwing stones and start whispering. You don't know what they see, but it isn't you anymore. It's something potential, something dangerous. Then the blood comes, quietly, shamefully at first, just a few rusty streaks on the cloth between your legs. You think you've injured yourself. You panic. You pray. But no one warned you, because no one thinks it's polite to talk about what the female body does. You're left to figure it out with scraps and superstition. Eventually, someone notices the way you walk, careful, clenched, and hands you a worn rag without a word. You nod like you understand, because it's safer than asking questions. Now that you bleed, you are a problem. You are not a child anymore. You are fertile, which is to say, you are spiritually suspect. The church tells you that menstruation is Eve's curse, the price of temptation. You are reminded of it every month, a holy penalty leaking out of you. There are sermons about women's blood, how it spoils wine, kills bees, turns silk black, and withers the fruit on trees. Even if you never leave your room, your body is still a threat to the world around it. You're told not to touch bread while bleeding, not to enter the cellar, not to sit too close to men. It might make them unclean, or worse, aroused. You wonder if the blood smells. You wonder if others can see it on your face, in your voice, in the way you try not to move too suddenly. You learn to smile carefully and keep your eyes down. You speak only when spoken to. You don't want to give anyone a reason to accuse you of being too warm, too forward, too much. No one explains what's happening inside you. Instead, they tell you how to manage it. Tie herbs around your waist. Burn a sprig of rosemary under your bed. Avoid onions. Sit on a hot stone. Say a prayer to St. Margaret, even though you've never done anything wrong. If the bleeding is heavy, it's your fault for thinking too much or running too fast. If it's too light, they'll say you're cursed, barren, or withholding. The cure, apparently, is to get married. Your mother doesn't offer comfort. She offers warnings: walk modestly, bathe less often, cover your hair, don't laugh too loudly, don't eat figs in public, don't let your gaze linger. Your body is now an invitation whether you like it or not. And if someone answers it uninvited, you will be blamed, even if you said nothing, even if you screamed, even if you were asleep. It will still be your fault for bleeding, for breathing, for being born a girl. The blood comes whether you want it to or not. It stains everything. Your underclothes, your sheets, your dignity. There are no sanitary cloths, no antiseptic, just rags, washed and reused until they fray into threads. You hide them under the hearthstone where no one will see. You wash them at dawn, hoping no one asks why you're at the river so early. When you hang them to dry, you pray no man walks by. If he does, you may be accused of casting spells. The pain is never acknowledged. The cramping, the nausea, the dizziness, all of it is considered imaginary, or worse, indulgent. If you complain, you're lazy. If you cry, you're dramatic. If you faint, they say it's because you haven't bled enough. The official solution is warming foods: spiced wine, boiled leeks, a paste made of crushed snails and vinegar. You're expected to thank them for this. You're expected to feel better. There is no room for privacy. If your bleeding is irregular, the village healer may inspect you. He will not ask permission. He will not explain what he's doing. You are told to lie back and pray. His hands are cold. His breath smells of garlic and pride. You are told it's for your own good. You are told to be grateful. Someone is willing to treat a girl who hasn't yet proven useful. And when it hurts, because it always does, you bite your lip and try not to scream. Eventually, someone suggests you're ready for marriage. They don't say it like it's a milestone. They say it like it's a cure. Your bleeding, your danger, your wandering womb, all of it can be fixed by putting a man inside you. You are barely past 13. Your voice still cracks when you try to speak with authority. But your body has changed, and so the verdict has been rendered. You are no longer a girl. You are a wife in waiting, a sin in progress, a vessel that needs filling. You start to wish the blood would stop. You start to fear it never will. You dread each month, the pain, the whispers, the silence. But worse than the bleeding is what comes next. Because now that your body is ready, it no longer belongs to you. And soon, neither will your choices, your breath, or your future. All of that is up for trade now. And the bidding has begun. Your bleeding does not simply mark you as unclean, it also makes you ill. At least, that's what the learned men say. The ones in dark robes with ink-stained fingers, and a shelf full of books they copied from other men who also didn't bleed. They call themselves physicians, though most of their experience comes from dissecting pigs, reading Aristotle badly, and asking God for visions. According to them, menstruation is a problem that must be managed, not socially, medically. They begin with the humours, the 4 sacred fluids that supposedly govern your entire existence: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. Every human body is a bubbling pot of these elements. And yours, being female, is predictably wrong. You're too cold, too moist, too passive. This makes you unstable. Not emotionally, alchemically. Your body doesn't know how to regulate itself, so it purges. The monthly flow is your only hope of avoiding internal rot. If you bleed, you are imbalanced. If you don't, you are poisoned. Should the blood stop or never come at all, the womb may revolt. They call this suffocation of the mother. Your uterus, now furious at being ignored, wanders through your body in search of warmth and attention. It climbs into your chest, compresses your lungs, makes your heart flutter. You become dizzy, faint, hysterical. You cry or scream or forget your name, and instead of being helped, you are diagnosed. The cure, fumigation. They burn herbs near your feet and near your face, hoping to lure the womb back down like it's a stubborn cat in a tree. If that fails, they smoke you from below, sometimes with rosemary, sometimes with sulphur, sometimes with whatever's left in the apothecary's bin. Bleeding too much isn't better. It means your body is overcorrecting, releasing more than it should, draining your energy, staining your soul. You are pale, weak, and probably sinful. A physician may suggest bloodletting from somewhere else, a nick on your ankle, a vein in your arm, a slice behind the ear. The logic is simple. If one leak won't stop, start another. Your body is just a wineskin, to be punctured until it behaves. No one asks how you feel, only how much you've bled. There are cures, if you can call them that. Pessaries, homemade suppositories, are pushed into you without ceremony or concern. Some are wrapped in linen soaked in wine, honey or vinegar. Others include ingredients like goat dung, bear fat, ashes, garlic, and crushed herbs. All are based on hearsay. Some are intended to dry you out, others to warm you up. A few just seem cruel for the sake of it. You're told to lie still while it works. No one explains what working looks like. If it hurts, it's assumed to be proof of progress. Leeches are popular, especially among the wealthier classes. They are placed on the thighs, the stomach, and, in some records, directly on the genitals. The belief is that if the blood won't exit naturally, it must be coaxed by something hungrier than you. You are told to stay calm while the creature feeds. The doctor watches closely, not for your safety, but for signs of spiritual improvement. It is not enough to be treated. You must also be purified. You may be given things to drink, a mixture of vinegar and ground oyster shells, a broth of sage and wormwood, red wine boiled with iron nails, or a tonic made from the blood of a freshly killed rooster. These are believed to stimulate the flow or rebalance the womb. If you vomit, they say it's because the poison is leaving you. If you grow dizzy or collapse, they say your body was weak to begin with. There is always an excuse. There is never relief. Behind all this is a textbook, usually written by a man who's never seen a healthy vulva and considers the uterus a mystery best left to divine revelation. He diagrams what he imagines your insides must look like: an inverted scrotum, a set of horns, a series of tubes. There is no consensus. Just guesses stacked on guesses, bound in leather and stamped with authority. You're reduced to anatomy by men who've never asked what it feels like to live inside one. The treatments are not designed to heal. They are designed to control, to regulate, to punish. Your blood is a disruption to prayer, to order, to male certainty. And so it must be explained away, bound up, driven out. You are never asked whether you want the bleeding to stop. That is not the point. The point is to keep you manageable. And so the church, the doctor, and the husband all take turns deciding what to do with you this month. If you say no to the fumigation, the pessary, the wine, the bleeding, the touch, they will say you're possessed, or ungrateful, or worse, lying. You begin to understand that menstruation is not just a function, it is a sentence, a lifelong one, carried out in monthly installments. Each cycle, a reminder that your body is not yours. It is a problem someone else has decided to solve. Your chest is tight, you're dizzy, your heart races, and your hands won't stop trembling. You haven't slept, you're not hungry. You cry without knowing why, and when you try to explain what you feel, the words come out wrong, or not at all. You're told to stop being dramatic, to calm down, to pray. Then someone suggests the cause might be your womb, not your nerves, not your grief, not exhaustion or starvation, or the slow crawl of despair, your womb. Because you see, it may have moved, not metaphorically, literally. According to the best minds in medieval medicine, the uterus is not a fixed organ. It is a roaming, restless creature inside you, capable of shifting its position whenever displeased. And right now, they suspect it has climbed into your chest. They call it the wandering womb, a diagnosis with no tests and infinite symptoms. Hysteria, fainting, choking sensations, forgetfulness, seizures, mood swings, paralysis, all are blamed on the uterus throwing a tantrum. If you're ill, they don't ask what happened. They ask where the womb went. Your body becomes a battlefield in which one organ is the enemy, and the rest of you collateral damage. The theory is ancient and entirely unprovable, which makes it perfect for the age. Aristotle, Hippocrates, Galen, all believed the womb could float like a jellyfish and poison whatever it touched. If it pressed on your liver, you might vomit bile. If it climbed too high, you'd gasp for air. If it reached your brain, they warned you could go mad. No one ever asks why this organ, specifically, is so untrustworthy. They simply assume it is because it belongs to you. Your symptoms are discussed in rooms you're not allowed to enter. The priest, the physician, the steward of your household, all men, gather to determine what must be done. They don't consult you. They don't need to. You are the setting, not the speaker. Their conversation treats your body like livestock, with a lodged stone or a fevered flank. They agree. The womb must be persuaded to return to its proper place. The first remedy is fumigation. You are laid down in a room with no windows, placed on your back like a corpse in waiting. Someone lights herbs at your feet, sweet-smelling ones like myrrh and lavender, meant to attract. You're told to inhale deeply. Meanwhile, more smoke is prepared for your other end. This time, the herbs are bitter. Garlic, onion, mustard seed, intended to repel. They hold the smoke beneath your skirts and watch your face for signs of change. You are not asked how it feels. You are not warned how hot the coals will be. You try not to cough. You try not to scream. You tell yourself this will end soon. You tell yourself worse things have happened to other women. And then you remember, worse things happen all the time. And they don't get better. They just get written off as necessary. When the smoke fails, they try oils. Strong, acrid ointments rubbed on your temples, your chest, your thighs. You're told to remain still while the physician mutters prayers and presses his fingers into your abdomen with far more interest than precision. He tells you to relax. He tells you he studied under a man who studied under a man who once saw a dissection. You do not feel comforted. If the oils and the fumigations and the prayers do not work, the blame returns to you. You must have done something, eaten the wrong food, thought impure thoughts, laughed too loudly in church. One treatise suggests that idle women are more prone to womb disorders. Another says widows are especially at risk. No one can explain why your uterus would attack you, but they all agree it's probably because you weren't behaving properly. Eventually, someone suggests the cure is sex, with your husband, of course. A proper warming of the womb will encourage it to stay put. If you are unmarried, this recommendation becomes more delicate and more dangerous. You're told to get married quickly, or pray harder, or submit to more fumigation. You begin to understand that the real problem is not where the womb has wandered. It's that no one believes it ever belonged to you in the first place. You are not alone in this. Other women whisper about the treatments, the smoke, the ointments, the forced confessions. One girl was said to have gone blind after too many sessions. Another simply stopped speaking altogether. The wandering womb becomes a catch-all excuse for everything that goes wrong in a woman's body. Pain, wandering womb, sadness, wandering womb, refusing to obey your husband, absolutely. The womb. There is no condition too complex or too convenient for this diagnosis. You start to fear your own insides. You imagine the womb curling up in your throat, coiling behind your eyes, slipping into your skull to scramble your thoughts. Not because it's real, but because they believe it is. And when enough people believe something, they don't need proof. They just need you to lie still while they fix it. You are told to be grateful. For the smoke, for the oils, for the men who care enough to intervene. You are not dying, they say. You are simply possessed by your own body. You begin to wonder if that's worse. You begin to wonder if you are ever anything more than the sum of your symptoms. And in this world, the answer is always the same. Not really. They don't ask if you're a virgin. They determine it. By reputation, by posture, by hymen, if necessary. Virginity is not a private matter. It's a public expectation, a physical status that must be proven to husbands, to courts, to God. And if you can't, it isn't just your word they doubt, it's your worth. From the moment your body begins to take shape, virginity becomes a thing you're supposed to guard, as if it were an object you carry between your legs. Girls are warned not to run, not to climb, not to sit on hard stools. You're told to close your legs, fold your hands, and keep your eyes down. Because if you laugh too loudly or walk too confidently, someone might think you've been touched. And once they think it, the burden of proof is yours. Your body becomes both accused and evidence. The hymen, that thin, inconsistent membrane, is treated as a seal of moral authority. Never mind that some girls are born without one. Never mind that it can stretch or tear from riding or dancing or nothing at all. According to them, it is your anatomical receipt. If it's intact, you're pure. If it's not, someone must be punished, usually you. There are inspections, sometimes informal, whispered about behind barn doors and bathhouses, other times official, called for by noble families, magistrates, even priests. If a marriage goes unconsummated or a husband changes his mind, he may claim you weren't a virgin. His word is enough to summon a physician. The exam is clinical in theory, but never in practice. You are told to lie still, to relax, to stop squirming, because this is science. He brings no nurse, no midwife, just his fingers and a conviction. If the hymen is present, it is noted. If it is not, your life begins to unravel. They ask questions you can't answer. Who touched you? When? Why didn't you scream? Why didn't you tell someone? Silence is guilt. Memory is guilt. Your pain is irrelevant. The court does not care whether it was love or coercion, or just a trick of anatomy. They care only whether a man can stake his claim and have it certified. You may be asked to bleed, on cloth, on sheets, on command. The proof of blood is a custom so deeply rooted, it survives even when medicine insists it's nonsense. After the wedding night, the linens are checked. If there is no stain, someone must be blamed. They say it's how a man knows his wife is untouched. They say the first time always hurts. And if you say otherwise, that it didn't, that it did but left no mark, that you're not sure. They assume the worst. Sometimes, in desperation, girls cut their own thighs. A few drops of blood on a wedding sheet can buy safety, can buy silence. It's a dangerous trade, but not as dangerous as the alternative. Because if you are deemed impure, your future shrinks. You may be sent away, or kept under lock and prayer, or married off to someone who doesn't mind damaged goods, as long as the dowry is higher. There's a price for everything, including your broken reputation. Virginity is also tied to health. Physicians claim that intercourse is necessary to regulate female bodies, that virgins are more prone to hysteria, melancholy, and dangerous fancies. But at the same time, too much sexual knowledge is suspect. If you know what to expect, you must be impure. If you cry out in pain, you're dramatic. If you don't, you're experienced. Either way, you lose. Widows and older women are accused of holding secrets, recipes, herbs, experience. Sometimes that alone is enough to brand them as witches. Virginity protects you from some of that suspicion, but only while you're young. After a certain age, it becomes unnatural, suspicious in a different way. What are you hiding? What don't men want from you? What are you doing with your time, if not serving? Even the saints are wrapped in this logic. Virgin martyrs are praised for dying before they're touched. Their virtue is their body. unspoiled by desire or violation. You are told to emulate them, but not too closely. Dying untouched is noble in a storybook. In real life, your father still wants grandchildren. Your village still wants alliances. You're expected to remain pure only until someone decides it's time you weren't. This isn't metaphorical shame. It isn't abstract. It's anatomical, legal, enforceable. Your flesh can be examined in court. Your marriage can be annulled on the basis of a missing membrane. You can be declared unfit for one man and condemned to another. And none of it has anything to do with love, only with power, property, and the illusion of control. You start to think of your body as a liability, a ticking clock, a contract you didn't sign. You wonder if there's a way to win, to follow the rules so carefully that no one questions you. But the rules are always changing. The hymen is there until it isn't. The bleeding is required until it's inconvenient. You are a symbol, not a self, a gate that must remain closed until someone else holds the key. And even then, they might break it open and blame you for not being locked tight enough. You are not asked if you want to marry. You are told. The arrangements are made behind closed doors, not just by your father, but by your uncles, your priest, your landlord, and anyone else who has a stake in the transaction. They speak in terms of dowry and honour, not affection. It's not about who you are, it's about what you bring. A tract of land, a potential heir, a hymen that, hopefully, hasn't been too much trouble. When the ceremony happens, it's more legal than sacred. The vows are spoken, the hands are bound, the witnesses nod. You are now officially the property of someone else. Your husband is not just your spouse. He is your guardian, your gatekeeper, your interpreter and enforcer. You may not speak for yourself in legal matters anymore. He will do it for you. You may not seek treatment for illness without his permission. That too belongs to him. The first night is not a celebration. It is a confirmation. You're expected to prove your suitability with silence, submission, and blood. The consummation is not about connection. It is about evidence. The pain is expected. The bleeding is proof. If you scream, they say you're dramatic. If you cry, they say you're lucky it wasn't an exorcism. If you feel nothing, that's probably for the best. Feeling too much makes people nervous. No one tells you how to prepare. There is no education, no explanation, just nervous whispers from older women, vague warnings about being still, and prayers that it will be over quickly. Your husband may be kind or not. It doesn't change the outcome. This isn't about affection. This is about access. He now owns the keys to your body, not just your bed, but your entire personhood. You are not a partner, you are territory. Once married, your status shifts. You are no longer protected as a virgin, but you are not free either. You exist in a strange, sanctioned vulnerability. If you are beaten, no one will intervene unless you die. If you fall ill, your husband decides whether you're worth treating. If you miscarry, it's your failure. If you don't conceive, it's your sin. And if he wants to try again tomorrow, even if you're still bleeding from tonight, that's his right. Consent is not a concept here, not legally, not practically. The marital debt is a duty, yours to give, his to take. If you withhold it, you may be accused of rebellion or even witchcraft. Refusing your husband is not disobedience, it is heresy. The church may encourage moderation, but it does not question ownership. You are a garden. He is the rightful gardener. Your boundaries are irrelevant. Medical care becomes a negotiation. If your belly swells or your womb aches or the bleeding won't stop, you may not see a healer unless your husband agrees. You are told to rest or fast or pray harder. Sometimes he'll fetch a physician, sometimes he won't. He may not want the expense or the attention, or the reminder that your body doesn't work the way it's supposed to. If he does call for help, you'll be examined in front of him, or not at all. Even midwives answer to him now. If a treatment fails, she'll be blamed. But if she succeeds too well, if she listens to you, comforts you, offers you herbs that actually help, she risks suspicion. There is a fine line between healing and heresy, and your husband's approval determines which side she falls on. You learn to keep your pain quiet. You learn not to ask for too much. You learn what he allows. If you resist, if you say no, if you flinch, if you turn away, you may be accused of being frigid, mad, or worse, possessed. Your reluctance becomes another symptom to diagnose. Maybe your womb is misaligned. Maybe you've been cursed by an envious neighbour. Maybe you've simply forgotten your duty. He might take you to the priest. He might take you to the doctor. But he won't ask why you're afraid. You see other women living this life too. Some limp slightly. Some wince when they kneel. Some never speak unless spoken to. You hear stories about forced remedies, about wives who died from infections no one treated, about women who stopped eating and were praised for their devotion. It's not that anyone wants you to die. It's just that they don't consider your suffering unusual or preventable. You start to understand that being a wife means being available, not emotionally, physically. Your body is no longer yours to protect. You can only hope it does not betray you too quickly, that it lasts long enough to bear the children he wants, that it does not bleed too much or too little or at the wrong time, because every failure of your body will be read as a failure of your character. This is what marriage means here. Not love, not partnership, just access, just control, just the quiet certainty that no matter what happens next, whether you fall ill, cry out, beg for help, or simply endure in silence, you will not be believed and you will not be free. You've been married for a year, maybe 2. The sheets have been stained. The priest has blessed the union. You've done everything expected of you, opened your body, swallowed your pain, wept into your pillow when no one could hear. But there is no child, no swelling belly, no tiny cries in the night. And so the murmurs begin. At first they're polite. They ask if you're feeling well. They recommend broths. They mention a midwife 2 villages over who's had great success with root powders. But it doesn't take long before the tone shifts. Your mother-in-law starts visiting more often. Your husband starts coming home later. The servants glance at you with something between pity and suspicion. A womb that does not produce is not just unfortunate, it is unnatural. No one asks about your husband, whether he drinks too much, whether he finishes too soon, whether he's more interested in the maid. Male fertility is a sensitive topic, by which they mean off limits. If a man fails to impregnate his wife, it must be the wife's fault. Maybe your womb is too cold. Maybe you've let bad humours accumulate. Maybe God is punishing you. The reasons multiply. The result is the same. You are broken. The treatments begin with food. You're told to eat warming things, spices, garlic, roasted meat if you can afford it. No cold water, no sour fruit, definitely no beans. You're warned against overbathing, especially during your bleeding days. Heat is your friend, unless it makes you sweat, which might release too many humours. Your instructions contradict each other. You follow them anyway. When food fails, they turn to objects, amulets, charms, dried weasel testicles to wear around your neck. You are told to sleep with rosemary under your pillow and a picture of Saint Anne above your bed. One midwife ties red wool around your wrist and murmurs a prayer as she does it. Another gives you a small pouch of ashes and says not to open it, just bury it near the door. You do all of this because hope is dangerous, but being hopeless is worse. Eventually, someone decides an examination is necessary. This does not mean sterile instruments or privacy. It means lying on a rough blanket while a man with tobacco breath and fingers like broom handles presses on your stomach and mutters about blockages. He may insert something. His fingers, a feather, a stick blessed by a monk. He does not explain what he's doing. You do not ask. The pain is sharp, but the humiliation is worse. Some physicians believe your womb is simply too quiet. They recommend fumigation or stimulation. One treatise suggests inserting a concoction of mashed herbs and deer fat, wrapped in linen and warmed by the fire. You are told to hold it in for as long as you can. No one tells you what happens if it burns. You learn that on your own. Meanwhile, your husband is given meat, wine, encouraged to rest. The problem, if he is even suspected of having one, is considered temporary. He is told to have confidence. He is praised for trying. His virility is assumed. Yours is not. If you seem tired, they say it's nerves. If you seem angry, they say it's guilt. If you say nothing, they fill the silence with theories about your blood, your soul, your sins. The church gets involved. You're encouraged to fast, to confess, to examine your conscience. Perhaps there is some unrepented pride, some impure thought, some forgotten misdeed from your girlhood. A holy woman is not barren, they say. A holy woman bears fruit. If you are fruitless, perhaps your tree is cursed. Or perhaps you were never a tree at all, just a dry, hollow stalk, pretending at womanhood. Rumours spread quickly. Infertility is not just a private grief. It's a community diagnosis. Your neighbours speculate. Your family grows distant. Your husband grows colder. You are not fulfilling your role, and so your place in the world begins to rot from underneath you. No matter how many remedies you try, no matter how many prayers you whisper with dry lips in the dark, the judgment always lands in the same place. Your body has failed. If you bleed irregularly, they say you're diseased. If you bleed regularly, they say it should be working. If you bleed too much, they say the life drains out with it. You start to wonder if there's a right way to be a woman at all, or just an endless list of ways to get it wrong. You try to stay hopeful, because the alternative is unbearable. But each month the blood returns, and each month the disappointment tightens its grip. Eventually, your husband may be encouraged to take another wife, or mistress, or servant. You may be forced to raise a child that is not yours. You may be sent away to a convent, to a cousin, to the margins of the family portrait. Not because you are unloved, but because love was never part of the arrangement. You were chosen for your function, and you have not performed. This is infertility, as defined by the world around you, not an illness, not a condition, a verdict, a moral failing, a curse. And whether it came from nature, chance, or the man who shares your bed, you are the one who will carry the sentence. When it finally happens, the missed bleeding, the morning nausea, the heaviness in your belly, you do not celebrate. Not at first, you wait. You wait because pregnancy is not safety. It is not joy. It is not a promise. It is a condition. One that might kill you. One that might end on the floor of your home in a blur of reddened silence, with no one able to explain why. You are pregnant, but that doesn't mean you'll stay that way. There are no tests, no charts, no gentle murmurs from white-coated nurses, no sterile scans in softly lit rooms. There are only signs and guesses. The midwife listens with her hands and her instincts. Your mother-in-law watches how you walk, how you breathe. Your husband notices that you vomit in the mornings and assumes success. Everyone has an opinion. No one has any certainty. Cramps could be normal, could be the baby settling, could be the baby dying. Bleeding, some say that happens to healthy women. Others say it's a warning. If you faint, they'll tell you to rest. If you cry, they'll tell you to be strong. If you scream in the night, clutching your belly, someone may finally go for the midwife. Or they may wait until morning, assuming you're just being dramatic. The advice comes fast and contradictory. Eat more, eat less, avoid fish, avoid eggs, rub oil on your stomach, avoid oil, pray before every meal. Don't let your feet get cold, don't touch cats, don't sleep on your back. Don't sleep too much, don't sleep too little. If anything goes wrong, it's probably because you didn't listen closely enough. The treatments are worse. You're offered tonics made of herbs you can't name, bitter drinks that burn your throat, and promises that they'll keep the baby strong. One midwife suggests tying a string of dried frog bones around your neck. Another recommends horse dung mixed with honey, spread across your belly to draw the blood downward. You do it because saying no is not an option, because desperation is not rational, because it's not just your life at risk anymore. It's whatever is growing inside you. There is no such thing as prenatal care, only speculation and superstition. If you grow too fast, they say you're having twins. If you grow too slowly, they say the baby is weak, or malformed, or cursed. If you gain weight in your face, they say it's a girl. If your ankles swell, they tell you to soak them in vinegar and say a prayer to St. Anne. If you have nightmares, someone suggests you've been looked at by a jealous woman, and now the baby is at risk. You begin to live between heartbeats, between signs, between one wrong movement and the next. You are terrified of sneezing, lifting anything heavier than a loaf of bread, or walking too far from home. You try to rest, but there is no peace, only the gnawing fear that your body, so often blamed and doubted and diagnosed by men who do not understand it, will fail you one more time. And then sometimes it does. The pain begins in the night, or the morning, or during prayer, sharp and sudden or slow and unmistakable. You bleed. It soaks through your linen. It trails down your legs. You call for help. You are told to lie still, to breathe, to pray. Someone goes for the midwife. Someone else fetches the priest. You are not sure which one is meant to save you, and which is there to prepare for your burial. If the baby is lost, it is not considered a mystery. It is considered a consequence. Maybe you stood too close to a sick animal. Maybe you disrespected your husband. Maybe someone envied you. Maybe God changed his mind. The questions come fast, but they are never about your body. They are about your soul. Did you sin? Did you curse? Did you want this child enough? They may search for physical explanations, a malformed womb, a bad temperament, cold blood, but the blame always circles back to you. No one comforts you. They offer solutions, more tonics, more prayers, more herbs and fumigations, and if you're lucky, permission to try again. If the baby lives, the anxiety doesn't stop. Every day is a gamble. Fever could kill, a fall could kill. A poorly timed fright could send the womb into panic. You avoid fires, loud noises, even eye contact with certain people. You sleep propped up. You speak in whispers. You do everything you are told and still feel like you're waiting for something to go wrong. And through all of this, you're still expected to cook, to clean, to serve. You are still expected to endure your husband's touch, even if you ache, even if you bleed, even if the midwife says no. Your body is not yours. It never was. Now it belongs to two people. The man who put the child in you and the child who might take you out with it. You learn not to hope too loudly, not to smile too freely. You know what happens to women who get too comfortable with good fortune. It's not that anyone wants you to suffer. It's just that they're used to it. Your pain is not a tragedy. It is a pattern. And so you wait, you carry, you ache. And if you survive this part, if your womb doesn't betray you, if the bleeding doesn't return, if the baby kicks at the right time and not the wrong one, you'll be told you were lucky. But you won't feel lucky. You'll feel like something that nearly broke, again. The day arrives quietly. There is no fanfare, no triumphant music swelling in the background. Just the first pang, low, deep, unmistakable. Your body lurches forward, as if trying to cast itself open before you're ready. You grip the table, or the bedpost, or your own wrist, and you know without doubt, it has begun. This is not the end of pregnancy. This is the beginning of danger. Midwives are summoned. They arrive in pairs or threes, depending on how many live nearby and how many favours your family can still call in. They bring cloths, herbs, knives, and a kind of weary competence that doesn't inspire hope so much as grim cooperation. They've seen too much to be afraid. You are not their first, you will not be their last. They tell you to breathe, to pray, to lie on your side, or squat over a pile of straw. None of it helps. Pain is not a symptom here. It is the entire process. There is no clean room, no epidural, no measured count to 10. There is only the screaming, yours mostly, and the heat of a fire lit too close, and the scent of sweat mixed with smoke and something coppery underneath. You bite down on a stick wrapped in cloth because there is nothing else to hold. No one offers comfort, only instructions. The labour stretches on for hours, sometimes days. You lose track. There are moments of silence when the pain dips low, and you dare to breathe. And then another wave hits, tearing through your spine, pulling you apart from the inside. You scream, you sob. The midwives murmur prayers and shout for water and argue with one another over whether it's too late to try something else. You ask if it's normal. No one answers. If the baby comes head first and with enough force, you may be spared the worst. But if the baby is breech, feet first, sideways, or with a shoulder caught, the odds turn against you. They try everything, shifting your hips, pushing on your belly, reaching inside with bare hands to twist the infant into position. You bite until your gums bleed. You beg for it to stop. They tell you it must not. You do not get to quit, not now. Sometimes the baby is too big. Sometimes the pelvis is too narrow. Sometimes nothing makes sense, and still the birth must proceed. There are knives nearby, but they are not for you. Not yet. They are for the cord or for a last resort episiotomy, done by instinct, not anatomy. If you scream louder, they press harder. If you pass out, they slap your cheeks and call your name. You are not allowed to slip away. Not yet. Not until you deliver. When the child finally emerges, slick with blood and mucus, more a scream than a body, the midwives barely pause. They work quickly. Tie the cord with string, cut it with a dull blade, wrap the baby in cloth. If it cries, they breathe again. If it doesn't, they turn it upside down and smack its back. If that fails, they turn to you and demand to know what you did wrong. Because if the baby dies, suspicion turns quickly. Did you sin during pregnancy? Did you bathe too cold, eat too little, speak too harshly? Did you dream of something foul? Did you envy another woman's child? Did you even want this baby at all? They don't say it out loud, but they look at you with eyes that ask. And in a world where women are blamed for their blood, their silence, and their failures to conceive, a dead baby is not a tragedy. It is a possible crime. And if the baby lives, then the pain simply shifts. The afterbirth must come, a second agony, often worse than the first. If the placenta tears or sticks, they will reach inside and scrape it loose with their hands. You scream again, not because you haven't done this before, but because now your body's raw and torn and bleeding. If the bleeding doesn't stop, you may die anyway, quietly, a few hours later. While everyone is busy admiring the infant, you've survived the birth. That was supposed to be the hard part. You screamed, tore, bled, and forced a life out of your body without dying, and for that, you're called strong. Blessed even. You hear the words as you lie on sweat-soaked cloths, barely able to move. The baby nurses at your chest like nothing happened. But your body knows better. The danger isn't over. It's just changed shape. The bleeding continues, slower now, but steady. You are told this is normal. A woman must be purified. The lochia, blood, mucus, tissue, must leave you or it will fester. No one explains how long it should last. They only say to be patient, to sit quietly, to rest when you can. You try, but the cloths soak quickly. The bleeding doesn't smell right. You feel cold, even when the fire's been burning for hours. You whisper this to the midwife, and she frowns but says nothing. There is no concept of infection, no understanding of bacteria, no language for what's happening inside you. You are not told to look for signs. You are not told what the signs are. Just sit over the herbs, they say, rosemary, mugwort, thyme, burned in a pan beneath your stool. The smoke will cleanse you. Let it rise between your legs and into your womb. It will heal what needs healing, or it won't. In either case, no one will try anything else. Your breasts swell painfully. The baby cries constantly. You don't know if the milk is enough, or if it's even there. When you sleep, it's in short, guilty bursts, always one ear open, one hand twitching toward the cradle. You bleed in your sleep. You sweat through your dress. Sometimes you shiver uncontrollably. They bring you broth. They bring you boiled wine. They don't bring answers. Your pain is not unusual. Your exhaustion is expected. You cannot speak of it. There is no word for what's happening in your head. The fog, the emptiness, the distant feeling that the world has shifted just a little to the left and no one else has noticed. You look at the baby and feel nothing. Or you feel everything, all at once, so much that you can't breathe. They tell you it's hormones, or humours, or demons, or just weakness. Pray more, they say. It's not about you anymore. It never was. Your body continues to betray you. You leak. You ache. Your hips feel disjointed. Your belly still swells, as if the baby never left. When you stand, you feel something shift. Not pain exactly, but pressure. Like your insides have given up and are falling out. Prolapse, though they don't call it that. They just tell you to lie down more often, to tie a sash around your waist, to clench and bear it. Your husband is patient for a time, then he starts to look at you differently. You are not the woman he married. You are stretched, torn, bruised, dull. You are not as quick with your tongue, not as light with your steps. You're tired all the time. You forget things. You cry easily. You bleed in the night. Eventually, he stops asking how you are and starts asking when you'll be ready again. You're told to be grateful. For the baby, for surviving, for the hands that helped you. Never mind that one of them likely brought the fever. Never mind that you still wince when you urinate. Never mind that no one has touched you gently since before the contractions started. You are a mother now, a vessel that has delivered. The function is fulfilled. What remains is cleanup. Your worth, as always, is conditional, tied to fertility, to the possibility of repeating this entire ordeal again next year, or the year after that, or until your body gives out. There is no recovery, only readiness. If you bleed too long, they'll worry you're still unclean. If you bleed too little, they'll worry your womb has seized up again. Everything has a diagnosis, but none of it is yours to define. They speak often of resilience, of how strong women are, how many survive worse. You know these words are not comfort. They are instructions. You are meant to survive, to carry on, to absorb the damage in silence and call it endurance. You are not encouraged to heal. You are expected to resume. When you finally step outside again, the sun feels foreign. The world has not changed, only you. Your back is weaker, your legs unsteady. Your bleeding has slowed but not stopped. You smile for the neighbours, hold the baby tight, accept their congratulations with a bowed head. Inside you feel like something has been scooped out of you and not replaced. But you say thank you. You say yes, it was difficult. Yes, I'm blessed. Yes, God is good. Because what else is there to say? You survived. You did what was expected. You bled into cloth and smoke and silence and came out the other side, mostly. There's something wrong with you. That much is clear. The bleeding won't stop, or it won't start. Your belly is swollen, but not with child. Or maybe you can't feel anything at all. No heat, no hunger, no hope. You try to explain it, but the words don't land. So instead, you're sent to be treated, not healed. Treated. There's a difference. The midwife arrives with a bundle of herbs and a look of practiced sympathy. Or it might be the physician, depending on who your husband trusts more. Either way, you're told to lie down. On a stool, a bench, a blanket spread over the cold floor. Privacy is not part of the treatment, nor is dignity. You are a body, and more specifically, a womb that refuses to behave. The steaming begins. They burn mugwort and sage beneath you, sometimes mixed with dried rose petals or wormwood. The smoke curls upward between your legs, sharp and bitter. You are told not to flinch, not to move. The heat is supposed to draw out whatever's stuck, to loosen clots or revive a sluggish uterus. If you shift or cough or cry, you'll be scolded. If the skin burns, you're told that means it's working. When the steaming fails, and it often does, they turn to pessaries. These are mixtures of fat, ash, herbs, and other things no one should ever put inside a human body. Goose grease is common. So is honey, so is garlic. Some are wrapped in linen and inserted like a plug. Others are just pushed in with bare fingers, warm from the fire, reeking of onion and vinegar. They don't use gloves, they don't wash. You lie there, clenching your fists, trying not to gag. Other concoctions are worse. One recipe includes powdered mouse bone, dried dung, and the juice of crushed snails. Another calls for old bread soaked in wine and laced with rue, a plant that can cause vomiting, bleeding, or worse. You're not asked for consent. You're told this is medicine. The fact that it hurts, that it smells, that your skin itches for days afterward, these are dismissed as signs of progress. If the problem is believed to be spiritual, they get more creative. A priest may arrive to bless your womb with holy water, or touch a relic to your abdomen. One text recommends tying a live toad to each thigh, to draw out the sickness with its breath. Another advises sleeping beside a relic of a virgin saint. If you question this, you are told that doubt invites demons. You learn not to question. Leeches may be used depending on your humours. If you're too hot or too full of blood, or just too loud about your suffering, they may apply the creatures directly to your thighs, or closer. The sensation is sharp, then numbing, then terrifying. You try not to move. You try not to scream. You hope they're removed before they burrow. Sometimes they aren't. The physicians are worse than the remedies. They arrive with books and confidence and no real understanding of the body they're inspecting. You are told to lie back, to part your legs, to breathe deeply. They touch you with calloused hands, press on your stomach, insert tools made of bone or brass. They rarely explain what they're doing. They speak in Latin. You try not to cry. They don't see you as a person. You are a case study, an opportunity, a rare presentation, a cautionary tale they might write about in a letter to another physician, if they could write. Your pain is a puzzle, and they're here to solve it. Whether or not you survive is incidental. Sometimes they bleed you first, from your ankle, your arm, your neck. They say it will balance your humours. Then they apply compresses to your belly, your breasts, your thighs, boiled cabbage, mud, vinegar-soaked wool. One healer recommends a poultice of crushed ants. Another insists on ash from a burned church hymnal. All of it goes on your skin. Some of it ends up inside you. None of it helps. If you're lucky, the treatment merely leaves you bruised and embarrassed. If you're unlucky, it causes fever, or vomiting, or infection. You try to hide the symptoms because complaining means you're ungrateful, means you aren't cooperating, means you might need to be treated again. There is no word for medical trauma, no word for violation. You feel it anyway. Your body flinches when someone enters the room. You avoid eye contact. You feel shame at being touched, even by your child. You scrub yourself raw and still don't feel clean. But none of this is discussed. There is no space for it. You are a woman. This is your duty. Your discomfort is collateral damage. No one thinks you should enjoy treatment. You should endure it. That's what being a woman means here. Endurance, silence, obedience, and if the bleeding stops or the womb returns to its proper position, or the swelling goes down, they will smile and call it a success, even if it cost you something you can't name. Because to them, you are not a person. You are a symptom to suppress, a vessel to correct. And whatever it takes to get you quiet again is called a cure. Your womb aches, not with cramps or childbirth or infection, at least not officially. This pain is different, they say, deeper, unseen. You try to describe it, but the words feel slippery, inadequate. The physician shrugs, the midwife looks uncertain, and so they send for the priest, because if your body defies treatment, perhaps your soul is to blame. In this world, medicine and religion are not separate. Pain is not just a physical symptom, it is a spiritual one. If your bleeding is irregular, if your womb is inflamed, if your belly swells, and no child appears, someone will inevitably suggest it is God's will, or worse, God's punishment. You are told to examine your conscience, to confess anything that might have offended heaven. It's not about healing, it's about penance. The priest arrives in black robes with eyes like burned out coals. He doesn't touch you, not directly. He touches the space around you, sprinkles water, recites Latin, waves a relic over your stomach like a brand over meat. You are told to repeat prayers while kneeling on stone. You are told to fast, to abstain, to purify your thoughts, as if modesty can untwist your womb, as if hunger can dry up infection. If the pain continues, they suggest flagellation. Not done to you, done by you. You're handed a small whip and instructed to beat your own back while praying. Not until it hurts, until you feel the shame, until you break through to whatever sin is hiding in your blood. You are told that pain brings clarity, that God listens best through suffering, and your womb is still screaming, so clearly you haven't screamed enough. Your body becomes a moral puzzle. Are you too proud, too vain? Have you harboured lustful thoughts? Have you remembered your old betrothed in your dreams? Have you envied a neighbour? Has your husband lost interest? If so, they suggest the devil has found a way in. The gate was open, the temptation yours, and the consequences divine. Women's bodies are considered porous, not just biologically, but spiritually. Evil can enter through the womb, the mouth, even the eyes. If your belly swells, they wonder what's inside. If you miscarry, they question whether it was ever a baby at all. If the child is born deformed, they whisper about demons, or curses, or fornication with spirits. You are expected to answer for things you never knew could be crimes. The treatments reflect this. You are given blessed salt to eat. You are made to drink holy water steeped with herbs. You are told to sleep with relics, a sliver of saint's bone, a scrap of linen from a holy martyr, tied around your wrist or placed under your pillow. One priest presses a crucifix to your stomach and recites a litany of sins you don't recall committing. Another places a candle beside your bed and tells you not to speak until morning. Exorcisms are not common, but they are not rare. If you scream too much during birth, if you thrash during a seizure, if you bleed at the wrong time, or speak in strange tones during labour, someone may call it possession. You may be tied down, restrained, recited over for hours. They may press ash to your forehead, or salt to your tongue, or worse, ask questions. Loud, repetitive, endless questions. You are not meant to answer. You are meant to submit. Midwives are not immune. They are watched closely, especially if their remedies work too well. A woman who eases pain is suspicious. A woman who ends a pregnancy is criminal. A woman who knows too much anatomy is accused of devilry. If she's old, alone, or has lost children of her own, the whispers grow louder. Her house might be searched, her herbs burned, her hands questioned for traces of malice, and yet she is still called upon, because no one else knows what to do. The physicians have failed. The priests have exhausted their Latin. The prayers have left you raw, and still you bleed. Still you ache. Still your body will not behave like the books say it should. So they turn to the midwife, the same one they warned you about, the same one they may accuse if you die in her care. You learn to accept the rituals, not because you believe, but because there is nothing else. You whisper confessions into dark corners. You drink bitter holy water that makes you vomit. You apologize for dreams, for impulses, for thoughts you didn't ask for. You promise to do better. You tell God you're sorry for being born into this skin. You say these things because silence is dangerous, because doubt is worse. If the pain fades, by chance, by time, by anything except the remedies you are given, they say the penance worked. If it doesn't, you are told to dig deeper. You must still be hiding something. You must not be sorry enough. The womb, after all, remembers what you do not, and it will not let go until God does. You are not treated, you are judged. Not just by men, but by the invisible scales of salvation. Your flesh is not a medical mystery. It is a moral test, one that you are constantly failing. They say they know what's inside you. They write books about it. They draw diagrams, annotate scrolls, recite lectures from pulpits and pulp paper manuals, all without ever actually checking. Because they don't need to. Their knowledge isn't based on your body. It's based on theory, repetition, and the unwavering belief that a woman is simply a man turned inside out. The texts say your womb floats, not just in the spiritual sense, literally, suspended in your abdomen like a leather pouch on strings, with little horns sprouting from the top, and sometimes teeth. Some illustrations depict it shaped like a ram's head, others like a flask. None of them look like anything that's ever existed inside a real human body. But the men who drew them never saw one up close, and they certainly never asked someone who had. Dissection is rare, usually forbidden, and even when allowed, it's performed on criminals, bodies dumped into cold stone rooms, bloated, decaying, silent. The physicians who attend bring their own expectations with them. They do not observe, they confirm. If the body contradicts their beliefs, they sketch around the problem. If a woman's organs don't match the books, they assume the body is wrong, not the theory. Your uterus, they say, is the mirror of a scrotum. Your ovaries are just misplaced testicles. Your entire reproductive system is framed as a failed male body, underdeveloped, inverted, incomplete. Where a man emits vital heat, you are cold and wet. Where he is active, you are passive. Where he generates life with fire, you merely hold it in your clay. These are not metaphors, they are considered anatomy. The vagina is described as a pipe, a passage, a void. It does not have sensation, not really. Not unless there's something wrong with it. If you feel pain, that might be disease. If you feel pleasure, that's cause for concern. The clitoris is either omitted entirely or labelled as an anatomical curiosity, a mistake of nature, irrelevant unless it becomes too large. Then it's diagnosed or removed. Semen, they say, is hot and alive. It contains spirit, vital essence. It initiates creation. Menstrual blood, in contrast, is cold, corrupt, and wasteful. It is considered the failed version of seed, the body's apology for not getting pregnant. You bleed because your womb failed to do its job, because your flesh could not transform your husband's gift into anything useful. So it oozes out in shame. The balance of humours shapes everything. You are ruled by blood and phlegm, heavy with moisture and melancholy. This explains why you are emotional, inconsistent, untrustworthy. It also explains your diseases. You're more prone to swelling, to wandering organs, to hysterical fits. The cure, they say, is balance, which almost always means bleeding, purging, or being married. If that fails, they pray harder, or blame you. Some physicians claim your womb has multiple chambers, one for boys, one for girls, one for monsters. Depending on which side the seed enters, the child's sex or nature is decided. If the child is born deformed, they say it was the wrong chamber, or the result of impure thoughts during conception, or perhaps the womb rebelled. You can never quite tell where anatomy ends and morality begins. Likely because no one wants there to be a difference. Midwives, who might actually know the truth, are rarely consulted in these matters. Their knowledge is practical, grounded in what bodies actually do, which makes it dangerous. The male physicians dismiss them, the church suspects them, and the husbands, well, they defer to the ones in robes and lateen, not to the women with blood on their hands and quiet warnings in their eyes. These anatomical beliefs do more than shape your treatments, they shape your identity. You are not whole. You are a reflection, a misfire, a lesser version of something better. Your body is not studied, it is judged. When you fall ill, they refer to their books. When the books fail, they say your condition must be spiritual, or emotional, or imaginary. They rarely consider the possibility that their understanding might be incomplete. And even if they did, what would change? You are not the subject of these studies. You are the object, the passive recipient of centuries of assumptions stacked like stones. No one comes to you with questions, only answers, only diagrams of things that don't exist, only treatments based on illustrations copied from older, wronger illustrations. You are not hidden. You are ignored. You begin to sense that your pain is invisible because it was never included in the model, that your body cannot be healed by a system that doesn't know what it is, that the hands reaching into you are not trying to understand. They are trying to prove they already do. So yes, they say they know what's inside you, but if they looked, really looked, they might have to admit they've been wrong all along, and that would be inconvenient. So instead, they keep drawing, keep writing, keep treating the imaginary woman they invented in the margins of someone else's notes, while you, real and bleeding and very much alive, are left to suffer under the weight of their certainty. There comes a time when the bleeding stops, not because you're healed, but because your body is tired. The cloths stay dry, the cramps fade, the monthly dread is replaced by something colder, quieter. You thought you might feel relief, but instead you feel watched, because in this world, a woman who does not bleed is no longer sacred. She is suspicious. They don't call it menopause. That word doesn't exist. Instead, they call it the drying, as if your usefulness has simply evaporated, as if your womb, finally emptied of purpose, has shriveled into something sour and threatening. You're told your body is unbalanced, not enough moisture, not enough heat, not enough grace. Your skin grows thin, your joints ache. You begin to forget small things. The physicians say your humours are unstable. The neighbours say worse. If you have not borne children, or not enough, or not recently, they look at you differently. The whispers grow louder, that you are too proud, too picky, too cold, that your womb rejected blessings, that your barrenness wasn't natural but chosen, or worse, inflicted by some secret, shameful sin. Maybe you envied another woman's child. Maybe you drank the wrong tea. Maybe you cursed yourself with vanity or lust or ambition. There's always a reason, and it always leads back to you. If you do have children, it doesn't protect you. Once they're grown, you are set aside. You've fulfilled your function. No one asks how your hips feel after 10 births. No one asks whether your womb ever stopped aching. Your body is still broken. It still leaks. It still forgets how to sleep or sit or move without pain. But now, no one is watching closely. No one is checking. No one cares. You've gone from sacred vessel to background noise. Your husband, if he's still alive, might take interest in someone younger. If he's dead, you become a widow. A title that means both freedom and invisibility. You are no longer expected to bear children, but also no longer allowed to be seen wanting anything else. Companionship, conversation, comfort, all of that becomes suspect. People watch you more closely now, not out of care, but out of caution. Women like you are often blamed when things go wrong. If a child falls ill, perhaps you looked at them too long. If a cow gives sour milk, perhaps your shadow crossed its path. You begin to fold yourself smaller in public. You walk with your eyes down, your hands tucked away. You speak gently, but not too often. You smile when spoken to. You do not linger. You do not draw attention. Because any attention, at this point, can be fatal. Witchcraft is always on the edge of the conversation. It hovers there, not shouted, but murmured. You live alone. You collect herbs. You remember things. You know how to soothe a fever. You know how to stop a bleeding womb. You know how to make someone fall asleep. You've been a midwife, or a widow, or a woman who talks too little, or too much. These are your qualifications for suspicion. You begin to understand that your body was never really yours, not when it bled, not when it birthed, not when it broke. It was watched, weighed, prayed over, punished, and passed from hand to hand. And now, it is simply ignored. Not because it is safe, but because it is no longer useful. Your pain continues. Your bones ache in the cold. Your stomach rebels against food you once loved. Your sleep shatters like glass at random hours. You tell someone. They shrug. It's your age, what did you expect? The church has little to offer you now. Your suffering is no longer interpreted as holy. You are not a virgin, not a mother, not a bride. You are a question they would rather not answer. You sit in the back pew. You say your prayers. You nod when spoken to. Your sins, if you have any left, are vague now, just the slow decay of being alive. Too long in a world that does not want you to last. Sometimes you think about the girls you knew, the ones who bled out after childbirth, or were accused of seduction, or simply vanished into a convent one day and were never spoken of again. You think of them when you wake in the night with pain in your ribs and no one to hold your hand. You wonder if disappearing earlier might have been easier. You are still here somehow, still walking, still breathing, still waiting for the ache in your lower back to quiet. You don't ask for much, just warmth, just silence, just a little less blame. But the world doesn't offer comfort to women like you, only suspicion, only indifference, only the slow fade into shadow, where people can forget that you ever bled, or carried, or cried, or screamed. Your uterus may be quiet now, but so are your rights, so are your choices, so is your name, which no one speaks anymore unless they need something. You are not feared enough to burn. You are not loved enough to mourn. You simply are. And in this world, that is the most dangerous thing of all. You die the way you lived, quietly, in pain, and without ceremony. There is no last confession, no moment of recognition, just a slow sinking, like your body has finally had enough of being asked to endure. The bleeding came back a few weeks ago, or maybe it never fully stopped. The fever followed. Your stomach churns with every breath. No one knows what's wrong. No one really tries to find out. You're not taken to a healer. There's no point. The priest came once, muttered a few blessings, and left when it became clear you couldn't offer a dramatic redemption. Someone offered you broth. Someone changed the cloth under your hips. But mostly, they wait. For the silence, for the stillness, for the moment when your presence becomes absence and everyone can finally move on. You die in a bed that smells of mildew, old sweat, and sour breath. The room is dim. The shutters creak. There's a draft that no one bothers to block anymore. You try to speak, but the words don't form. Or maybe they do, but no one's listening. The people around you, if there are any, keep their distance. They are not grieving. They are enduring, waiting for the final breath so they can say they were there, and then say no more. No physician records your symptoms. No midwife catalogues your suffering. There is no diagnosis, no name for the way your body failed, or was failed. It could have been infection, or hemorrhage, or slow starvation, or heartbreak. All of it, none of it. The result is the same. You stop breathing, and the world shrugs. You were a woman. What more is there to say? There is no gravestone with your name carved into it. No plaque to mark the years you spent bleeding, bearing, breaking. You are buried quickly, quietly, in the churchyard, if someone remembers to ask, or in a shallow grave if not. A few muttered prayers, a handful of dirt, that's all. The space you once occupied fills in with silence. Within days, someone else is sleeping in your bed. Within weeks, someone else is married to your husband. Within months, no one says your name aloud. History does not remember you. Not in the books, not in the churches, not in the letters passed down through families. You are not a heroine. You are not a saint. You are not even a footnote. You are one of millions, unnamed, unrecorded, unacknowledged. A woman whose life was spent in service to other people's needs. A womb that failed to produce enough, or too much, or at the wrong time. A body that was examined, blamed, penetrated, praised and punished, but never heard. They won't write about your pain, not the tearing, not the bleeding, not the quiet gasps you made when no one else was in the room. They won't record the prayers you whispered through cracked lips, or the fear that gripped you each time you felt a cramp and didn't know if it meant life or death. They won't describe the herbs you boiled in secret, or the scars you never spoke of, or the dreams you had about running far away and starting again as someone with choices. You will not be remembered, but not because you were unworthy, because the world you lived in was built not to see you. It documented kings, it counted sons, it named men who fought and conquered and theorized, even when they were wrong. It preserved ideas, not suffering. And your suffering, intimate, inconvenient, female, was never considered history, just routine. And yet here you are, heard, understood, finally, not as a footnote, not as a cautionary tale, but as a person, a full, bleeding, breathing human being who deserved better. You were not just a wife, or a mother, or a patient. You were not just a vessel. You were someone. And even if no one back then said it, we can say it now. Because now we know more. We have science, we have language, we have antiseptics and pain relief and human rights, at least in some places. But we also have echoes. The way people still ignore women's pain. The way symptoms are dismissed. The way silence is mistaken for consent. So much has changed, but not enough. So now you'll rest, not in a graveyard, not in a ledger, but here, in the mind of someone listening. You'll sleep, not alone and forgotten, but acknowledged. You won't be remembered in the way emperors are, but maybe, just maybe, in the way that matters, in the way that makes someone see the world a little more clearly, hear pain a little more carefully, question things that are long overdue for questioning. Lie back, let go. Your name was never written, but your story is. Your body was never honoured, but your truth is. You were a woman. You were hurt. You were never the problem. That brings us to the end of tonight's story. Not a tale of healing, but of harm disguised as help, of centuries where a woman's body was not her own, but a battlefield, a burden, a prayer left unanswered. If you're still awake, thank you for bearing witness to a world that turned ignorance into doctrine and called it medicine. If you'd like early access to future stories, ad-free audio of these episodes, or just want to support the show, you'll find the Patreon link in the description. You can also like, subscribe, or leave a comment with the stories you'd like unearthed next. And if you're listening on a podcast app, a rating or review helps more people find their way to these stories. Sleep well.